Hello, hope all are doing great. So today I will gonna discuss some basic web developer question. First of them, what are the difference between inline and block element? So there are two display values, block and inline. A block level element always starts on a new line and takes up the full width available. So if I wanna describe that, that is a block label, you may define it with a div item. When you declare a div and include the all item in that div will contain that design or style. So the whole element of div get the same style. In the other way, an inline element does not start on a new line and it only take up as much width as necessary. So that means in a single line, if we want to give style in a particular item, we may declare a span, and this span contains only some text or something. That particular text will get that style. So we will define a particular line design by inline element. So the basic difference between block and inline, that is block will contain the whole item and inline just contain single item. Okay, now the another question is, what is symmetric element in HTML5? So symmetric HTML elements are those that clearly describe their meaning in human and machine. Elements such as header, footer, article are all considered symmetric because they accurately describe the purpose of element and the type contents that inside them. So it's in the defined way, we just want to say a symmetric element will almost near the human language. That means at a first glance, when we see header and all we just imagine header is the particular part and footer that is a particular part. So by declaring these tags, we can assume what just happened inside those tag. So it's almost near about human language and easy to describe at machine. So those are symmetric element. And third question is, what is CSS box model? In the term of box model used when talking about design and layout, the CSS box model essentially a box that wrap around every HTML element. It contains of margin, borders, padding, and the actual content inside the box. The box model allows us to add border around the element and to define space between element. So if we want to describe the box model in the other way, we may also say that the box is a particular unit we just define in our design, and the box will contain margin, padding, and border. So we easily can wrap a structure including a box, and the box will define how it look to be. So the fourth question, have you used Flexbox and CSS Grid? What's the difference between them? So Grid and Flexbox, the basic difference between CSS Grid layout and CSS Flexbox layout is that Flexbox was designed for layout in one dimension, either a row or a column. Grid was designed for two-dimensional layout, rows and column at the same time. So we may understand easily the flex is one dimensional, whatever it is array, whatever it is row or whatever it is a column. So in the single line, the row beside by beside stands in flex. Otherwise, in the grid, we may parallelly define there is some row and there is some column. So this is the two-dimensional design we may declare at the same time. So we will use it as our required in design. And the fifth question, difference between JavaScript and Node.js. JavaScript, all we know, is a programming language that is used for writing script on the web page. So it's make the web page functional. If we want to enable some function in our web pages, we just write down the function using JavaScript language. And Node.js is a JavaScript runtime environment. JavaScript can only be run in the browser, and Node.js could be run outside of browser. That means the runtime of JavaScript that may run behind the JavaScript code or behind the browser, where we may contain some data or we may call some data from server to interact with browser. And the last question for this session is, what's the difference between MongoDB and MySQL? MongoDB represents data as of JSON documents. So we know the JSON documents is the type where we can retrieve data from server to our browser easily by calling it the JSON format. And MySQL represent data in table and rows. So the data will contain in a table and the table must have a row and column. So we know it is a formation of a table and those data puts on that table. And MongoDB does not support JSON, but SQL support JSON operation. MongoDB uses JavaScript as query language, while MySQL uses the structural query language. So if we want to simplify that, the MongoDB is also used in a database that's store and provide data in just JSON format, and MySQL store data in a table, and we know table must contain rows and column. So that's the basic difference of MongoDB and MySQL. So thanks for watching. That's all for today.